So we're on the little road to Bodie, and you can see weeds are way overgrown here.
Little history of Bodie.
Weeds are almost overtaking the
Between
roadway.
1877 and the mid-1880s, the population of the Bodie mining district increased from less than 500 people to an estimated 9,000. And the growth was most dramatically reflected along Bodie's main street, which in the early days had been a motley collection of tents and flimsy shanties scattered in the area north of King Street, was quickly replaced by dozens of 1- and 2-story buildings during the boom of 1878 to 1879. The buildings were of simple frame construction with false fronts often featuring Victorian detailing on cornices and ornately framed bay windows of etched glass. A few brick structures, the most notably being the post office, were built in 1879, with bricks manufactured from clay deposits at Booker Flat, just east of town. Although fires in 1892 and 1932 destroyed most of Bodie, many of the original buildings and residences remain as reminders of the past. Most of these are identified in the Bodie Historic Park brochure, A Walk Through Old Bodie, but often with site identification based on post-1880 occupancy or use. Original locations can easily be found using a map that is on sale in the museum. There are also some potential sources of confusion. For example, Site 25 in the brochure is described as the location of the Bodie branch of the Bodie Bank. In 1880, the building, destroyed by fire in 1932, was in fact the office of the Mono County Bank, the Bodie Bank being located one door north. It was to be a decade later that the Bodie Bank would occupy the former quarters of the old Mono County Bank. The jail, Site 22, and the firehouse, Site 33, are original structures, but both have been moved from their earlier locations shown on the map. Lastly, for those interested in reading about Bodie, you will find it easier to follow the action if you remember that to Bodites, upper or above meant south, and lower or below meant north. Thus, King Street was downtown and Green Street uptown. And at the parking area, there's a restrooms, and then right next to it, you'll see mining equipment. That's from the Red Cloud Mine. And what happened is the accidental discovery of rich ore in 1875 brought a rush of corporations to Bodie. Located on once rich placer deposits in the area southeast of Silver Hill, the Red Cloud Mine was one of many speculative ventures. Red Cloud stockholders received regular assessments against their stock, and the money from those assessments was all that kept the mine operating. Exploration continued, and water was encountered at the 450-foot level. A Cornish pump was installed to remove the water. Then the shaft was driven another 275 feet. The Red Cloud produced only $10,972.50 from its 1877 to its demise in 1882. But the corporation had assessed its stockholders $155,000. In 1882, the Red Cloud, along with other mines, was shut down, and 175 men were put out of work. Wells Fargo and Company's bank levied an attachment on the Red Cloud for $110,000. That year, the San Francisco Stock Exchange Board removed the Red Cloud from their list. The Treadwell Yukon Company leased the Red Cloud from 1928 to 1934. So the first house we come to after leaving the parking lot is number 49, called Metzger House. Henry Metzger, born in New York, came to Bodie in 1878 to work for the Standard Company. He was the mill's foreman when the Standard closed in 1913. In the early 1900s, his family included his wife, Lena, and 5 children.
So we'll have to look at the map to see what that is.
Life in Bodie, a city grown from the eastern High Sierra mud. Men, women, and children came from all of the United States and from around the world to live and work here during the Bodie heyday. At the height of the boom in 1881, Bodie claimed 65 saloons, 18 lodging houses and hotels, 3 breweries, wholesale liquor dealers, more than a half dozen markets, restaurants, 2 banks, a barber shops, newspapers, a school, a post office, and a telegraph office. You might have enjoyed an ice cream on a warm summer day, or oysters packed in ice and shipped from San Francisco. During the boom years, the camp struggled along without a church, though regular services were held in the Miners' Union Hall and after 1878 in the Oddfellows Hall. On the north end of town, a rougher element of society frequented saloons and faro tables. They drank Bodie Lightning, better known as whiskey, and visited the red light district and the opium dens. Gunshots rang throughout the streets. Gambling, drunkenness, and violence plagued law-abiding citizens. Community-minded residents gathered toward the south end of town for more respectable activities. On the 4th of July, families attended the annual street parade accompanied by the band and watched children participate in games while men competed in hard rock drilling contests. Wrestling competitions were frequent among the men. Couples enjoyed fancy dress balls at the Miners' Union Hall, which doubled as a social center. Children's recitals, concerts, along with other events, kept the proper women of the town occupied planning festivities. Booker Flat, south of town, featured a horse racing track, and nearby was the baseball field where the Bodie Mutts played ball. Next house we come to is number 48, called the McDonald House. Dan McDonald was injured in the 1879 explosion at the Standard Powder magazine. The house was later owned by the Burkham family. Solomon Burkham operated a store on Main Street in the 1880s and 1890s. Next one we come to is number 2, called the Methodist Church. It was built in 1882, is Bodie's only church still standing. A Catholic church built in 1882 burned in 1928. E.J. Clinton, head of a mining company at Bodie in the late 1920s, restored the church with his own funds and often preached sermons. An oilcloth with the 10 Commandments, which once hung behind the pulpit, was stolen. Thou shalt not steal. Next one we come to is number 5, called the Miller House. Tom Miller, born in Canada, worked as a teamster for the Bodie Railway and Lumber Company at Mono Mills near Mono Lake. Jeffrey Pine from Mono Mills was used for mine timbers and to fuel boilers of hoisting works and stamp mills. In 1900, Miller and his wife Jessie lived here with their 2 children. On the wall, photos show Bodie's different eras. The next house that has a whole bunch of bottles in the front is number 8, called James Stewart Kane House. James S. Kane arrived in Bodie at age 25 in 1879. He had just married Martha Delilah Wells of Genoa, Nevada. Kane entered the lumber business and put barges and a steamship on Mono Lake to transport wood. In 1888, he became a banker and kept the Bodie Bank open until 1932. Next group of buildings we come to is number 14, called their storage and the Boone Store and Warehouse. This store, built in 1879, was one of several general stores in town. It was owned by Harvey Boone, a distant cousin of Daniel Boone, and partner James W. Wright. Note the food and gas cans used as siding on the south wall. Boone was active in the community, serving as a county supervisor, school trustee, and Bodie Water president. Next group of houses buildings we come to is number 14, called their storage and the Boone Store and Warehouse. This store, built in 1879, was one of several general stores in town. It was owned by Harvey Boone, a distant cousin of Daniel Boone, and partner James W. Wright. Note the food and gas cans used as siding on the south wall. Boone was active in the community, serving as a county supervisor, school trustee, and Bodie water president. Yeah, that's true. And then the Bodie Bank site, number 30. All that remains of the Bodie Bank after the 1932 fire is its brick vault. James S. Kane bought the bank, founded by E.L. Benedict in 1890. Despite Bodie's Wild West reputation, its bank was never robbed. However, a nighttime burglary on September 1st, 1916, however, yielded $2,000 in cash and some bullion and other valuables. Yep, the vault and the inner vault. Ton of flies around here. All right. Some houses have collapsed in on themselves, so. And number 33, the jail. The town jail looks small in proportion to tales of lawlessness during Bodie's boom years. From 1878 to 1881, the jail was the responsibility of Constable John Kerrigan. In an infamous 1881 incident which resulted in Kerrigan's temporary demotion, vigilantes took accused murderer Joseph DeRoach from the jail and hanged him. Foundry or whatever up above it. Yeah.
The garage is clearly collapsed on top of that car.
Yeah. Okay. Number 17 is the firehouse. This firehouse was rebuilt in the 1930s by the Civilian Conservation Corps, CCC. Volunteer firefighting companies battled a number of fires over the years. Bodie's biggest fires were on July 25, 1892 and June 23, 1932. The 1892 fire started on North Main Street in a restaurant owned by Mrs. James Perry and consumed about 60 buildings. Efforts to fight the fire were delayed due to a valve closed inadvertently. Lack of water also plagued those who battled the 1932 blaze. That time, poorly maintained screens at the reservoir led to rocks and debris clogging the pipes. Here's a video of this. Around it. Check out the stuff that's in the back here. Next building on the corner is number 19, the hydroelectric building, previously a substation for distribution of the town's electricity in 1910. The electrical equipment now inside now dates from the 1930s, and then attached to it almost is the schoolhouse, originally the Bon Ton Lodging House. This became a school after the first school was allegedly burned down by an early-day juvenile delinquent in 1879-1880. The school saw its highest enrollment of 615 students. It closed in 1942. This is number 20, the schoolhouse. Then number 10 and number 11 were the Decayed Hotel.
Yeah,
the post office
right next
moved
to the
here in
bar.
1879. Notice the large cabinet with slots for mail. The upstairs served as Grandma Johnson's rooming house. Later, the building became the Decayed Hotel. In Bodie's final years as a town, it was a bar and a cafe. The IOOF, the Independent Order of Oddfellows Lodge, number 279, was one of Bodie's many fraternal societies. The lodge used the upper floor. The first floor was used by Henry Ward, who built the building in 1880 to house his undertaking furniture business. It was later occupied by the Bodie Athletic Club. And then next to that is the museum, which used to be the Opera House and Playhouse. The museum, which was the Miners' Union Hall, built in 1878, the Miners' Union Hall was central to Bodie's social life. Besides serving as the meeting place for union members, it hosted religious services, Independence Day grand balls, elegant masquerade parties, school recitals, and Christmas parties for young and old. The union was organized December 22nd, 1877, and joined with the Western Federation of Miners as Local 61 in 1903. The building is now a museum and small bookstore. A little more history about Bodie. It's in what's called arrested decay, although a lot of the buildings have been staged because the schoolhouse did not resemble what it looks like now if you look at pictures from the 1930s, 1940s. But it's still nice to see everything. They go, this is Bodie, or rather what remains of Bodie. Today, only about 5% of the buildings remain from the town's 1877 to 1881 heyday. Most have fallen victim to time, fire, and the elements. Designated a California State Park in 1962, it is now preserved in a state of arrested decay. This means that the building's roofs, windows, and foundations are repaired and stabilized, not restored. The history of Bodie: following the 1849 gold rush, mining declined along the western slopes of the Sierra Nevada. Prospectors, ever hungry for the next big strike, crossed the Sierra Nevada to prospect the eastern slopes. W.S. Bodie, B-O-D-E-Y, from Poughkeepsie, New York, discovered gold here in 1859. He died months later in a blizzard, never seeing the town that honors him. Bodie's bones were rediscovered in 1879 and then misplaced after burial. His final resting place is now thought to be somewhere on the hill above the cemetery. The town's name came to be spelled Bodie, B-O-D-I-E. Mining in the district progressed at a slow pace until 1875, when a mine collapse revealed a rich body of gold ore. Word spread fast, and Bodie's boomtown days began. While period accounts estimated Bodie's population as high as 8,000, later writers claimed 10,000. Census records do not reflect these high numbers. Bodie's peak population probably ranged between 7,000 to 8,000. During 1877 to 1881, Bodie's mining district included 30 different mines and 9 stamp mills. Along with miners and merchants, Bodie attracted a rougher element who gave the town a reputation for bad men and wild times. There were more than 60 saloons near Bonanza Street, prostitutes' cribs, and opium dens in Chinatown. The boom years were over quickly as unsuccessful mines began closing. The population dropped quickly and continued to dwindle into the 1900s. Mining continued until 1942. The family of Bodie's last major landowner, James S. Kane, hired caretakers to watch over the town and protect it from looters and vandals. In 1962, California State Parks purchased the town to preserve the historic buildings and artifacts. When you visit Bodie today, you will experience slices from the town's different time periods. You'll see houses that were built in the 1870s, the Standard Mill from the late 1890s, gas pumps from the 1920s, and a schoolhouse that was used until 1942. Some buildings are named according to past functions, others for the people who lived there, whether the first, the last, or most notable. Enjoy Bodie's past and visit the museum.
Gone the 3 miles from Bodie, and now we're almost back to civilization and a paved road.
Modern day civilization.
Yeah, yeah.